Thank you for joining us on Who You Know. My name is Michael Sublett with Odd Most Pizza. This is Arthur Meeker with Xtreme Grafx, and we're joined by Mike Adams from Adams Ribs, and amongst other things. So, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the other stuff. All right, so question for you, because I'm dying to know certain things. Is you do, you deal with a lot of proteins and things. They're not cheap anymore.
No.
And so, we're having a struggle because in the pizza industry, it just seems like costs are going up everywhere. Yet our industry hasn't, the pizza industry hasn't not bridged that gap. Like other things have been able to like charge more for everything. But the pizza industry doesn't seem to have that value of like, people, I don't know if it's the industry is we call it wallow at the pigs,
Yeah.
they haven't raised, the Domino's, Papa John's. So I don't think the value of our industry has caught up with all the expenses that we carry. And so I look at your industry and man, proteins are getting awfully expensive. Are you able to counterbalance that? Or are you still trying to push that up?
Well, you get to a certain point and you're like, when are people going to stop buying? Well, with the economy the way it is this last couple of years, people have cut back their going out to eat spending. We can only raise prices so much. The cost of brisket, which brisket, when I started, it's funny because up in the Adams Rib in the restaurant, in the rafters, you can look up and see these windows that used to be our menus and handwritten on there. They're real faded now, but you're looking at getting a pulled pork or brisket sandwich or a tri-tip sandwich. It was like $7.95 for a sandwich and a side. Now it's like $14.90. It's over doubled in price because the cost of the meat has gone so sky high. We just you just keep every 6 months we reevaluate the menu, and we didn't raise prices this last time because it was like, man, I wouldn't go out to eat and pay that much money.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're eating the cost, hoping we'll get some volume in there, but the volume is cut back because people just aren't going out to eat. So yeah, we can only raise prices so much before it's out of the range of people being able to afford it.
Yeah, our category is kind of stuck because we have always prided ourselves on we're the highest quality in our category.
Yeah.
Because we're the conveyor belt industry. The pizza industry is broken up into 4 different categories, and we're in the conveyor belt industry. And so our cap for price points is a certain level. And I cannot take quality away. I can't. I just can't. I mean, we've prided ourselves on finding a product and go, that actually improves the quality of it, and we're still in the same price category. So we do that. But, I'll tell you, it is so tough because pepperoni for us was like 40-something a case 3 years ago. It's now 115 a case.
Oh, it's crazy.
And it's like, how do you recover that? And so that's what's crazy about it. And I know that there was a time, that when things go down, people are like, maybe if we just go to a cheaper this, or we kind of it's that flavor profile. You can't lose a flavor profile. I'd rather give them half the toppings on a pizza and keep the same flavor profile as I would do that, but you can't do that either.
No, you can't, and that's the thing. You can't. Okay, how can we still squeeze some profit out of here?
Yeah, you can't just get a bigger bun and go, hey.
Yeah,
the same size.
You can't do it.
Like, the cereal boxes. Cereal boxes all stay the same, but then the cereal inside the box.
Ice cream, same thing, Ice cream's my vice, It's like, you used to buy a quart of ice cream, and now you buy your quart of ice cream. Wait, it's not a quart. It's, I don't remember how many ounces, but it's like this big instead of this big.
They're going to they're starting to do liters now. And
they trick you on it's liters. It's like...
Well, because we used to sell pints of ice cream.
Yeah.
That was the thing. It was a pint of ice cream, and all of our deals were around a pint of ice cream.
Yeah.
And somebody looked at it the other day and went, these aren't pints anymore. And I'm like, what? And you look at them like, son of a gun, they did it. They screwed us, They're like, and then they just adjusted a little bit.
Exactly. And they're cutting theirs. They're, but
I just...
As a local, restaurant guys, we can't cut like that. It's, we're not big chain restaurants. We don't have the buying power. Now, I'm told by U.S. Foods that I'm the #2 buyer in the area under the casino because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 restaurants plus a catering operation plus 2 food trucks.
Yeah.
and you know,
Can I
and
just
all
say,
that
I
that we
didn't even
do.
know that. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
All the restaurants?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Hey,
So
so
which
let's take the
ones?
opportunity. Why don't you tell us what restaurants that you have?
Okay, let me go from the start. I was born a port. No,
Yeah. Steve Martin.
Wait, can we get some intro music, please? Get some sad intro music, you know?
no. I was born poor. I mean, we weren't wealthy. We were a lower middle
Cheers.
class family, you know. And the rest of my family, they all got jobs, but I couldn't stand working for anybody else. And my first company was a landscape company. I started mowing lawns, and that developed into a landscape company, and that was in Southern California. I sold that, moved to Oregon with one child and my wife of now 42 years almost. And I went to work for a grocery store for Walmart way back when, and that lasted 3 years, which is kind of my MO if I go to work for somebody. It's 3 years, and so then I had kept all my equipment from landscaping in California, and I started it up again in Salem, Oregon. My first customer was Bonanza Restaurant on Lancaster Drive, right across the street from Walmart. And the grass they had just built the building, just put it in. The grass was like a foot tall, and I walked in there, and the owner of it was Scott Snyder, who is I think he's president of VIPS, who runs the convention center downtown and the hotel. And super nice guy. And I walked over there and I said, "Hey, you need to mow this grass." And he says, "Yeah, you know anybody?" And I said, "I can do it." And so that was my first account, first customer. It was a commercial account, and I grew that business from '89 to 2000. I think I did that, and then and I left the grocery, and I got bored with that after a while, and that's when I built a food truck, and it was called Trump's Doghouse. No Trump relationship. It was my dog Hunter's Trumpet. Was a Springer Spaniel, and he used to walk around with a water bottle in his mouth, so we had an artist turn it into a hot dog. And so we started selling hot dogs at the Saturday market, hot dogs, shaved ice, and snacks. And I did that so that my kids would learn a work ethic, and it's expensive to raise kids. You know?
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Free labor.
just a little bit. So in order for them to have extras, we did that, and they got paid. They each worked. My youngest son was, I think, 5 at the time, something like that. And that's when he started working, making shaved ice and standing at the cash register. And he got the best tips because he was a cute little 5-year-old kid. You know, now he and I and another guy own Bow and Vine Burger together. So that food truck morphed into Adam's Rib Smokehouse. We started doing barbecue out of it at Saturday Market. And it was so successful, we had the crazy idea, because people kept asking us where a restaurant was, that we would open a brick and mortar. Should have kept just into the food trucks. But,
Hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
and so anyways, that grew. The kids all grew up, and one at a time they would go explore other things for a week or a month or something, and all of them eventually came back and said, it's so much easier working for, Dad. And they all are very capable. My daughter has a company called Genuine Coffee and Espresso or something like that, Genuine Desserts. She does desserts and espresso, and she does all the desserts for Adam's Rib and Cozzie's Deli. That's another place that I bought a few years ago. So from Adam's, my kids were all grown, and my daughter was married. My oldest boy was married, and we had too many chiefs. And so I thought, I'll open another Adam's Rib. So we opened another Adam's Rib, and I moved my youngest son and my son-in-law out to the new one, which was on South Liberty. And then there were still too many chiefs at that one. So then I had an opportunity to help the Salem Association of Realtors with their children's fund that they have. And they had a food truck, and it was called Dad's Burgers. A friend of mine ran it, Rudy Gadina. And he said, Mike, I'm done doing this. So he shut it down, and it was parked in Gravenhorst Barn for 6 months. And then I went to Association of Realtors. I said, hey, what are you doing with that food truck? Yeah, we this or that. And I said, well, I tell you what. I said, I'll pay you 10% of the gross if you let me use it to develop this concept that I have. And so that's how, well, it was called the Paddy Wagon when it was a food truck. And I told my youngest son, I said, you take it and run with it. So he did. And then that morphed into Bow and Vine Burger. And we opened our first location downtown Salem. And it was so successful, we had that paid off in like 2 months. And then opened, shortly after that, we opened Corvallis. Maybe a year after that one opened, we opened Corvallis. And that one took off like a rocket. And, you know, it's 5 blocks from campus, so.
Good place for it.
It's, yeah,
place.
and it does real well. And then a couple years after that, that's when we opened Eugene Restaurant. And my son, he's just, you know, because he grew up in the industry, he's very, you know, good at what he does. And so he's developed, for the most part, that entire chain, those 3 restaurants. And then a couple of years ago, we were looking at a spot to maybe park. We also, in this time, have built a couple food trucks, and Arthur wrapped my Adam's Rib one. Still gets stares and looks because it's the coolest wrap I think he's ever done. But
It is.
and
This is when you're supposed to go to the camera and go, Xtreme Grafx.
Xtreme
Yeah,
Graphics.
Xtremegraphics.com. Spelled Xtreme.
And the only reason he didn't rep the Bow and Vine truck is because my son had this crazy idea and he ordered it out of New Jersey, and the entire thing was built over there, and we had to have it shipped. And that's a whole nother story for another day. But so anyways, a friend of mine owned Cozzie's New York Deli, Dave Cozzie, and Dave and Deb. And he works for the state, and this was kind of, originally he thought it was going to be, you know, his, you know, retirement. And I don't remember doing this, but he said that he consulted with me before he opened it. And usually when people do that, I say, don't do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
find another business because there's no profit in what you're wanting to do. And so anyways, after 9 years, he learned that, you know, he went back to work for the state, and he learned that, you know, it's a lot of work for a little bit of money. You do make a little bit of money. But
Yeah, your heart's got to be in it.
and yeah, and so he was going to close it down. He had it for sale, and we went to look at the space, and I realized it was his deli, and I'm like, Dave, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, I'm just going to close it and sell the equipment. And he said, I haven't had any bites on it. Well, I've had a couple bites, but no serious offers. And so we were going to put like our food truck out front and just use the dining room for people to sit. And then I had this crazy idea that, well, maybe I can keep this business alive because it's a really good deli. And so Dave and I and his wife and my wife sat down and we worked a deal out, and we bought Cozzie's New York Deli a couple, 2.5 years ago. And it's been a really, really good, we've turned it around from just making it to being pretty profitable most of the time. You know, it's just like anything else. You have good weeks and bad weeks, you know.
Yeah, restaurant
But,
business is really unpredictable.
Yeah, well, I'll look just a week ago, I'm looking at him and going, we broke our biggest sales day. And it's just a lunch place. I mean, our business comes in from 10:45 to 1:30. And that's, you know, but we've stretched it. So, you know, people have learned if they don't want to stand in line or, you know, not have a table to sit at, they'll come either earlier or later. Yeah. And just a couple weeks ago, we had just record sales, and then I'm looking at the sales list, and I'm like, what happened? It's like, okay, I'm doing did my order this morning for it, and you know, usually I'll spend about $1,500 each order twice a week, and the first order I spent like $1,500, and then I went in today and did an order and $795. So that tells me the sales are,
Yeah.
but it reflects. But this is back to, you've got to keep an eye on those numbers. Food costs. My in that particular restaurant, my hard costs are set. It's a killer deal for the least pays the gas, electric.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
That's really
it's a killer deal.
Yeah, that is a good
And it's a great family that owns that property, and they're just really good people, and they want something there for their renters. I've got Department of Corrections right above me in the whole top floor of that building, and River Bend Sand and Gravel next door in the bottom side next to me, and it's a kind of a built-in audience for me. So it's it's off the beaten path. If anybody wants to go to it, it's on Fairview Industrial Ave. Best deli sandwiches you'll get anywhere. It's a New York style wedge sandwich, and that's why I bought it, and that's why I didn't want it to close. And I wanted, it gets me to another point of why I'm in this business. I wanted to keep those 4 guys that were working there employed, because they would have been unemployed. And I told Dave, I said, I'll buy all the equipment off you, but I really want the name. I want the business. So Cozzie's New York Deli is my new favorite, restaurant that I have, but I like them all, but it's to employ people. And that's why I've opened the first Adams Rib. Yeah, I needed an income, but at the same time, I wanted to supply jobs to my community. And a lot of the people I hired back then were right out of the mission. I had a lot of ex-cons, and you got to vet them pretty good, and some of them don't work out. But I've helped a lot of guys get back on their feet, and sometimes it's a miss. And where'd that guy go this week? And then one of my other employees said they look it up, and he's back in Marion County, or his parole got revoked because he did something. So it's not 100%, but I've ministered a lot of guys that have been in a bad situation, and we helped them through.
Admiral.
Given away a couple of cars over the years to women that needed to get their kids safely to school or to work and back. But that's what it's about. That's literally why I'm in this business. I love to supply food. I mean, I'm a foodie, and I love.
Most people see the glitz and glamour of the situation, but when it really comes down to it, people are really the core of everything.
It is. Yeah.
We're pretty fortunate that we've had a lot of people. Most of our franchisees and most of our upper management and stuff have been with us for years. Director of Operations started in 19, he's been with us 32 years. He's 32 now. I've got, in fact, we have Liz, who started 3 months after we opened our very first location, is now the franchise owner with her husband, Eris, of McMinnville and Newburgh. And
nice.
and then Charles, when he started, he hasn't gone anywhere. It's like you hold on to really good people, and people come and go. We're a stepping stone industry.
We are,
and so you like that, but it's just that core. It's just kind of nice to bring people in and be able to help different things. And
we're the same way. We've had long-time employees that have been with us, 10, 12 years, and then they'll leave because they've there's not a lot of, other than if they're going to go into the management part of it. There's not a lot. There's not a lot. And right now we've got to hire, kids. I've got a lot of high school age kids working at Adams and Bovine, but we've got to hire these kids at 15 plus an hour to do dishes, and it's like, oh my gosh, So we try to intermix them into cooking as much as we can. If they're over 17, we can have them run the deep fryer and that stuff.
And it's like you can't run a slicer.
You can't run a slicer.
There's so many things. They were talking about not having the conveyor oven. There's something mechanical, and there's
because
this
it's got
gray
that
area.
They can get their finger caught.
So it's just getting ridiculous.
It is. It's. But they are allowing us to hire 14-year-olds again, and there's a couple of good programs that they'll
that's good,
cover a portion of their wages. We do a lot of those. We'll hire for like the fairs that we do and stuff, and they'll come in and a lot of them, will stay with us till they get into college, and then they'll go off to college and do their thing, and that's what we want. We want, because like you said, we're a stepping stone, and if we can get them to, move on to a successful future life. That's my ultimate goal anyways.
Yeah. It's really rewarding.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think I believe I first met you through Oregon Festival and Events Association.
Yeah.
You weren't on the board, but you're a member, right?
I was a member.
And you're a very active member.
Yeah.
And I was on the board at the time, and I remember you won an award through their Ovation Award because of being a vendor and somebody that gave back. And that's one of the things that really made me really impressed. I've always admired you especially because the food business is really a tough business. And you've been around for a long time. I had a couple restaurants. I know how tough it was. But also finding out how much you give back to the community and you employ the different people and stuff. That's really impressive. And that's one of the things Mike does too, is he donates a pizza once in a while, or a slice once in a while. But no, he donates a lot of pizzas, and he gives back to the community, very involved in the community. And that is, I admire that so much, because that's what my business stands for. That's what I stand for. And that's why I'm so drawn in by people that do that. You have an event coming up. Both of you guys are going to be at this weekend, and we had Josh on the podcast too. So it's the Forge Fest, and it's the 20th in Independence, and both of you guys are going to be there with your food. And I think that's amazing that we were able to put this together right before that.
And that event, Josh is a great guy, starters. I mean, the guy's just got a passion. And I always brag about him because he won his episode of Forged in Fire on whatever network that was. But he and I hit it off, when I first met him, when he had his shop out in Kaiser. And, I told him anytime he needs anything, for what he does for veterans, I mean, it's amazing, the highest suicide rate is with veterans. And this is helping them, to get their aggression out and get their mind off of the things that are causing the depression or whatever. And I said, whatever you want. And so, this one, I told him, gosh, he talked to me about doing this 6 or 8 months ago. And then it's funny because I put it on the calendar, so we have a floating calendar between everybody that's involved in the management part of Adams and bovine and whatnot. And I put it on the calendar, but I guess I categorized it wrong. So my food truck, the one you wrapped, got double booked because I didn't put the right category on the food truck.
It's always Mike's fault.
It's always a Mike's fault.
It's always Mike's fault.
It always is. And so I had to pull an older street cart that I had out, which is going to be cool because kind of takes me back to the roots of my oldest boy selling barbecue on the Capitol Mall 20 years ago with this little, called the hot dog cart. Yeah. And it's going to be fun. We'll pull it out there with our old 64 International Metro and have it all set up. For me, a lot of it is about the visual, what people see. They get good food, they see something cool, draws the eye. It's funny because I'm not everywhere, but people always think, because I'm usually driving some cool old vehicle or something that's got our logos all over it.
Yeah.
Man, you're everywhere. And it's like, no, I just wrap everything I have so that I can look like I'm everywhere.
Brand everything. That's what I tell everybody. Brand it all.
It's crazy because I have not bridged that gap yet. Everybody's talked about us doing a pizza truck or a pizza something, and I think
I could build it for you. I build my own trucks.
Because that's something that I would love to do, just because it seems like it would be a blast.
Yeah.
And I know you can just go and park it anywhere, and it's almost guaranteed. Because barbecue, pizza, it's all. It's like an easy. It's not like a what's that?
Yeah.
It's an easy sell. It
is.
And so we've always wanted to do that. And Arthur's on me constantly because we've got vehicles we should be wrapping and being out in the community and stuff. But I've always been like the kid at the back of the class. I'm just going to do what I can. I'm going to hide back here. I'm going to help what I can, do all these behind the scenes stuff. But do not tell anybody I'm back here. And
I'm the opposite. I was terribly shy when I was a child. I would hide behind the couch when it was time to take pictures,
Oh, well, see, I was voted class blusher my first 2 years of high school. That's
funny.
how shy I was when I was younger. But you get me in my castle, and it's not as obnoxious as I can get, you know. But you take me out of the castle, and I'm like all of a sudden, like, back there again, like, but yeah, we really need to do a truck. I'll have to ask you, not to take up too much time now, but I'm super curious. And you keep mentioning certain things. What part of Southern California?
I was born in Inglewood, lived in the South, what they call it, South Bay, Redondo Beach, that area.
I was born in Anaheim.
Manhattan.
Spent a lot of time down
My
there.
grandparents lived in Anaheim. About in the last house they lived in was a mobile home, and we watched the fireworks from Disneyland from there.
Yeah, I was gonna say we lived on Euclid and Ball, and so it's like we used to watch the fireworks at 9 and 11.
Yep.
And so,
funny.
but it's funny as you keep mentioning things. I'm like, we have that in common. We have that in common.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wish I had in common with you more is my kids had zero interest in the business. And I would have loved to have done that. But there's a weird statistic about that. They say that 90% of franchises or 90% of businesses don't go to the next generation.
No. Yeah.
And that was a shocking number for me when I heard that for the very first time, that 90% don't go to the next generation. But now that I'm living through it, I'm like, I kind of get it now. But so I admire you for having your kids
and you've
kind of
done
be
it in
involved.
such a way by franchising, it could live on past you. I mean, at some point you're going to say, I'm done. I'm going to retire. Most of the time, those businesses, they just shut them down. Selling a business like ours is tough.
Yeah, well, I always tell people that when you shut it down, the equipment's worth 5% of what you bought it for.
Yep.
And if you have this thriving, successful business, it's worth 7%.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
It really is. You know, it's funny how that works, but it's your passion has got to be there. I don't know, hey, God. And your durability has got to be there, and you've got to be able to weather those storms. But
that's why I always tell people when I coach people, and I always say, build your business as if you're going to sell it.
Yeah.
Every day, work on it, make sure it functions without you, because there's going to be a day where you're going to want to leave, and if you don't have somebody to take it over. And it's like me, I built a great, successful business, and none of my kids want to take it over.
Yeah.
And so, what's that look like for me? So that is great that you have it. And your wife is Katrina, right?
Yeah.
And she worked with you in the business.
She is. We're an anomaly in the business world. We've worked together 24/7 for the last 25 years. And before that, when I owned the landscape company, she had a job outside of that, but she was the bookkeeper for that as well. So we worked together in that business too. Not quite as close, because landscaping is a little different. I had to go out, and I had 5 crews that ran out and did a bunch of routes, and I did one myself, and then there was the landscape part of it. But yeah, she ran all that. So we've essentially, our whole married lives have been working together. 42 years, and we haven't killed each other yet. She probably wanted to a few times.
Yeah, that's usually how it is, right? Yeah. I know my wife used to work in my business, and she's glad to be out of it now.
Yeah.
So, but
it's
she still
a lot of
helps
work.
out, but it takes a lot to work side by side with a spouse in a business.
Yeah.
And then when you go home, it's hard to not talk about work.
Well, you don't shut it off. No,
it never does. Nobody understands that.
I'll wake up because I'll see her phone light going at 3 a.m, and she's looking at her bank account. It's okay, we're okay.
Yeah. And that's what my wife used to tell me all the time too. Is she would wake up in the middle of the night realizing, payroll's due tomorrow, or payroll's due in a couple of days, and it is a big float, and it is a big balancing game on sometimes. And it was a long time ago, somebody told me I was always frustrated about not having enough money to pay things, and I heard a dentist complaining about he was going broke because he made too many investments and they weren't working out, and he invested in people. And I was telling my mom, of all people, this, and my mom just looked at me and she goes, "There's just different levels of poverty."
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is. So that always stuck with me. I always really enjoyed that.
It's funny. I wish I could remember the guy's name. His son's name's Eric. Anyways, he used to own some gas stations here in town. He's passed away now, but he looked like Chuck Norris. The guy was like ripped. But he would, we sat down at my first restaurant on Market Street. I was in the Roseland Shopping Center at the end of the Jack's IGA grocery store. And him and his wife were in there, Stuck. His last name was Stuck. Anyways, we were sitting there, and he had lost his franchises with the gas station. I think it was like Union 76. He owned the one at 22 in Lancaster, which is now like a Jackson's Space Age something, or the other side of that. Anyways, he was able to sell those properties because he owned the properties, but he lost the franchise. So he sold the properties, and he started investing in commercial real estate in Arizona. And this was 30 years ago. And we were sitting down when we first opened the first restaurant, and I made a comment, man, I wish I was at your level. And he goes, you're at my level. He said, it's just, you have a smaller investment. He said, if I'm working a deal right now on a commercial warehouse building in Phoenix, Arizona, and if I don't make this deal happen, I'll lose everything. He said, just with he said, it's the same with you with this restaurant. If you can't make this restaurant happen, you'll lose everything. Because you invest everything you have to get started. Yeah. You know, I'm still invested that heavily in my restaurants. You know, when you open it, you know, I get to where I'm almost debt free, and then let's open another restaurant. You know,
opportunity.
Then you're $400,000 in debt again, and you know, it's like
But at the end of the day, with you doing all that, at the end of the day, you're never going to have any doubt. Like, oh, could I have done that? Because you've done it.
Because you did it.
You
yeah.
Just get in there, no fear.
Yeah.
Get in and do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't say there's no fear, but no, you've got a passion for it, and you know you can make it happen as long as everything falls into place the way it's supposed to fall into place. Yeah. You know, there's always a risk.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Just sit there and sit on your hands? And I'm not that kind of person.
And that really shapes a person too, taking those risks. I love that.
And if I didn't take these risks, you know, there's probably somebody else that'll hire these people. You know, there's somebody else that'll help people. There's somebody else that'll, you know, donate to Liberty House or, you know, Family Building Blocks or, you know, whatever. But I want to be that person. I want to be that person that's helping. You know, that's doing whatever I can for my community. And, you know, helping others so that they can get into a better situation. You know, and that's what it's all about.
And a little bit ago, we were talking about pricing and stuff like that, and the cost of goods. And I recently heard from a client that is actually a supplier, but I heard beef is really going to skyrocket in the next year or 2 years. What do you?
I don't know how I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, it's right now it's ridiculous. You know, ground beef and, you know, for like the burger restaurant, you know, we just made a new deal with our supplier for that restaurant. So, you know, to try and get the costs down. They say national pricing and all this stuff. They use all these fancy terms. But, you know, at the end of the day, we got to figure out how we're going to translate that into a profit. And, you know, with already being so high and, you know, and we do it. All our restaurants are the highest quality product I can find to, you know, to produce in them. You know, our burgers are, I can't remember what, my son just redid that whole deal, but they're the highest quality ground beef that you can get. And it's a blend. I think it's, I can't remember. Anyways, in Adams, it's the same thing. You know, we go through a local meat company out of Albany. And they source us the highest quality, you know, tri-tip and brisket and pork butts and all that. And, you know, the prices just keep creeping up there. You know?
I was wondering if you, is it Van Vliet that you work with him? Yeah. Mike on there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I was wondering if you, because, you know, we're in an area that has a lot of beef and a lot of things like this, but I don't think people realize how difficult it is sometimes to use like a vendor like that, because you use enough brisket where you actually have to have a producer that produces. And I know that there's lots of local farms out here, but I don't know that they
I've
can
had
produce.
a lot of them approach me to use their stuff, and I'm like, well, how much can you supply me with?
And that's where I'm
selling 500 pounds of brisket a week.
Yeah.
What do you know?
That's a lot of cows.
On a good day, a good week, it drops below that, and then and then if your smoker goes down overnight, and you got to toss all that brisket, that happened last night.
Did it?
My son called me today. He said the smoker shut off, and we used. There was, close to 100 pounds of brisket in there that went in the garbage. That's, $6 a pound. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do.
Like, that's a huge loss.
It is.
You say that.
It's huge.
And my stomach and my chest contract. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's, because I can feel it. I can tell you that right now. It's amazing that something could just happen. I mean, I'm sure,
Well,
you work off equipment that is super, super expensive.
Yeah, and so, oh my God, I have one printer, and the only tech that can work on it is in LA, and I have to fly him in, pay for his hotel and everything. It's like $8,000 for him to come out once a year to tune the machine, service the machine. Now, my print operator, he knows how to do the maintenance stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to have
Minor
somebody really come
adjustments
in there
and
and they do that preventative so nothing major breaks. But man, and we've had times when other things have just malfunctioned on printers, and I have to have them come in, and it's crazy. It's crazy how expensive it is.
Yeah.
But man, I'll tell you what, and I was just talking to somebody, and I'm going to tell you about, they'll make us all feel better about having those smaller mistakes.
I can't
But
wait.
this, I was working with this school down in Albany, and we're walking through the gym, and I commented on the floor of the gym. It's like gray washed wood instead of the honey oak look, and it was really nice. And he said, yeah, the vendor had to redo it 3 times, and it's $150,000 a whack to do the gym with the labor and the paint. And the first time, because the seams weren't correct or something was happening, something was coming up. And then when they redid it that time, the crew, they ran out of the special paint. So they went to the paint store and they couldn't find an oil base. So they used latex, and it's a navy blue.
Again,
And so they're up on the top, and when you look down, there's all these shades and streaks. And then on that top, and so they had to redo it again. So they redid it a 3rd time, and $150,000 whack.
Wow.
And so I'm like, whoa, that's, makes it feel, sometimes my problem's not as bad.
Well, it's just businesses and commas.
My wife Crystal, she's been on the show, her family owns Hart's Nursery out in Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
And
I used to buy a lot of plants from them when I was
Glenn
landscaping.
and Doug, yeah. And so, and it happens every once in a while, the plants will get a fungus, and they'll have a whole greenhouse, and I'm talking fuchsia baskets. I was floored. Fuchsia baskets this big around, just monsters. And we're talking, some of those are, like an 1/8 acre greenhouse with, 1,000 plants, hanging plant baskets in there. They have to dump them all.
Yeah.
They have to dump them all because if they get a fungus. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so,
and that's just part of being in business. Again, we're gamblers.
Yep.
Let's just say it like it is. You don't get into this business for a sure thing. It's all a gamble.
Yeah.
But it's exciting.
It is. It's a fun business to be in.
Yeah, it's it's. I was in the store just the other day, and it's like that energy is still there. Like I just came in, I start doing stuff. The next thing you know, it just starts. And I get home, and I'm just going 1,000 miles an hour. My wife is like,
yeah.
So
we do the same thing.
Today?
Yeah,
I did.
What are you? So we're just now getting ready to set up for our last event of the year, which is out at Easy Orchard. We do their the Harvest Festival out there. We'll do all the food and beer and wine and stuff for them. And I was yesterday on my knees sewing new straps on my tent with a handheld sewing machine, and I'm okay. I can't wait till this is done, And then you'll do the event, you'll be all done for the year, and then a couple months, break from the outside events, and you're like, can't wait for the next event to start. When's the event season start? Yeah. And your adrenaline starts going up again, and you're like ready for the next year. it's
until you do one or two, and then
and then
that's a lot of work.
you get through it, and it's like, okay, I was supposed to retire.
Yeah.
I actually did retire a couple of years ago, and it was during COVID, and it was working out pretty well for us, and I'm like, I don't have to work anymore. But then the economy hit, and I'm not working as much as I did, but mostly because I took on the care of my 87-year-old mother now. So she's living with us, and I made her oatmeal this morning for breakfast.
I
She
have
was
to
happy.
say that I don't see you like retiring.
No.
Because we follow each other on social media, and you're by the way, you're great at doing your social media posts. You're really good at putting posts on there, and I follow you. And you have all these projects that you're always doing. Did you build a pond or a big field or something?
Oh, I
a couple
landscaped.
years?
So when we moved out of town. My son didn't want to raise his kids in the city. We lived in the Four Corners area of Salem, and it got really bad. And so we had houses they were like right next to each other. And so we both sold our houses. We bought 23 acres out towards Almsville. And it was just it was overgrown blackberries, the whole thing. And we bought a tractor and some, brush cutters, and we're going to start going. And it was mostly during COVID. I went in there with the tractor. I had a small lawn area, and there was a pond. And so I went in there with the tractor, and I cleared and then regraded stuff and moved all with this little 25-horse Ford tractor with a box on the back, and then put in these beautiful lawns and beds, gardens. And
I think you were posting the grass growing.
Yeah.
From the dirt to the grass.
To the grass.
And you're always posting projects. And I know you built that food truck that we wrapped.
Yep.
And that was really nice.
That was a COVID
nice
thing
ones.
too. People started asking me for, because they're doing smaller events. They're not doing, and they're still not doing 300 plus weddings. I mean, we used to do 2 or 3 every weekend. Would do 300 plus people at a time. Three of them on a Saturday, or Sunday, and they were doing 45, 50 people. Well, can you just bring your food truck out? Well, all I had was that old International Metro, beautiful truck, but everybody thought it was a food truck. And I said, you know what? I'm going to build a food truck. There's a market here. There's a demand for it. And it paid for itself the first 6 months. It was, I think I built it. I had 30, because I save all the old restaurant equipment, sinks and all that stuff, and behind one of my barns. And I just started pulling stuff. I built that thing for about 30 grand. And within a month or two, it was paid itself off. I mean, it was, yeah. So that's where we got back into the food truck, stuff. And
So what do you see for the future?
I'll never retire.
Right.
Just the same thing. I'd like to see us, get through this economy. That's the biggest thing right now is for business in general, any business. Doesn't matter if it's mine or Oddmo's or, whatever, Jack in the Box. We got to get through this economy. It's killing, especially our industry is dying off so quick. People, there was a taco place on Chronic Tacos. Took them forever to get that thing built, and they lasted a year and a half. And it's like mostly because the economy just hit them hard.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of things. I just, hoping we can get past this part, and we will. We saw it in 2008. Went through a bad time. It didn't last this long, I don't remember, but it's a matter of, sharpening your pencil.
Yep.
And you just got to look at every detail and where can we save, where can we cut.
Yeah, I agree with you. They really don't want to say the R word, the recession word, but and they want to sugarcoat it, but it's a thing.
We're in the middle of it right now. Yeah,
it's definitely a thing.
But I'd like to see. I'm looking at the Bow and Vine. I'd love to see that grow more. Adams, I like where it's at. It's a small town. It does over $1 million a year in that little place. then the catering and that stuff, I'd like to see that come back and get bigger. And my wife will kill me for this one, but Cozzie's Deli, I would love to start franchising that one. It's, you know, it's such an easy restaurant to run.
I didn't even realize that you had it. I missed that memo somewhere on the line. But I can't wait to try it because I have family in New York, and so I've always traveled to New York, and I've been to true New York deli style places. So I want to go check this out.
I have to say one thing real quick. So I'm on TikTok a lot, and there's someone in this area that made a TikTok of Cozzie's and your guys' sandwiches, and it has,
he did a good job on that.
It's a female though too.
Oh,
that
was
went
it?
in
Oh,
as a
okay.
customer
I'll have to look that one up.
And was like, you guys gotta try it, and it has a lot of views and likes on it.
Good.
It made me have my mouth watering.
Yeah, like I'm thinking
and
a sandwich now. And
you know, and that particular style restaurant, it's funny. I go back in another story. When I was dating my wife, so I'll go back. When I was a little kid, I had a double eye operation. I was blind for like 6 weeks. Had to wear patches on my big old thing on my face so I couldn't see because they had operated on my eyes. My mom would sit me in, and I think I was in first grade. After she helped me blindly do my schoolwork, she would sit me in the front TV and I would listen to the television. And it was after Sheriff John was over. That was a Southern California thing. Do you remember Sheriff John?
No, I don't.
Maybe I'm older than you. I don't know. And anyways, or Hobo Kelly, the cooking shows would come on. Julia Childs, Yan Can Cook, The Galloping Gourmet. That's where I learned to cook, watching and listening to these TV shows. Then when I could see again, I watched those shows. And I've watched, that's how I learned how to be a chef. And I hate using the word chef because I'm not culinary trained. But I always wanted a deli since I was a little kid. And so when we were dating back in the 80s or early 80s, we would visit delis everywhere we'd go. We'd drive up and down the coast. We'd go from Santa Maria. There was one really good deli in Santa Maria. That's where I met my wife. And that's where, when I was 11, we moved to Santa Maria from Southern California to Central Coast. So then we would drive up to San Luis Obispo, Michael's New York Deli in San Luis Obispo, California. Mile-high sandwiches, just amazing, called the Brooklyn Bridge, the Golden Gate, the Golden Gate, the Manhattan, all these, they were all named after boroughs and bridges and stuff like that. And then all the way up to San Francisco, and I'd keep these recipes in my head. And so when this deli came available, I was like, it's my opportunity to get my deli. Right. But it's a sandwich shop, but when you said New York style deli, it's not your classic, it's got some really good side dishes that are amazing. But what I really want to do is take it up a notch, make my own bagels, have more of the dessert baklava and all that stuff. My daughter does amazing cannolis in there. They're the best cannolis in town. If you want a good cannoli, go into Cozzie's Deli.
I'm going there for lunch.
Every
really,
morning.
I didn't even know it existed.
you guys.
Yeah. She does. She makes all the desserts: tiramisu, the cookies, the brownies. We sell a ton of those Rice Krispie treats. She makes and packages them, all for genuine desserts. But I'd love to see that one grow more, just because there's a better profit in it, and it's such an easy place. And I go in there a couple days a week and stand at the cash register and talk to people. And
that's my favorite job when I had my restaurants, is kind of being the host, just hanging out.
That's the funnest part of the whole thing.
Talking to people, watching their reaction after they eat your food, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, a guy told me one time, why do you want to be in the restaurant business? I said, because I love the expression on people's faces when they eat my food. And he's like, wrong reason. And I'm like, I don't know any other reason. You tell me there's no profit in it, so it's got to be the enjoyment,
Yeah, I think for me, people ask me that all the time. They thought that pizza was my passion and all that kind of stuff. Like, no, there's so much about the industry that I love. It really wasn't pizza. I didn't make a great pizza and go, oh my God, I want to sell this. People are going to love this. I went into it for all the other pieces. Like you get to do charity work, you get to do community stuff, you get to, you feed people, and you get like all these different things you get to be involved in. You get to marketing, promotion, so you get to touch all these different things. And the way my brain is, I'm like, I need to bounce around like a Plinko ball, just to keep myself stable, just keep myself like, all right, you're okay, and so for me, it was a lot of those other pieces. And you're right. When you stand there and you see something, I mean, just yesterday I was at Lancaster and a guy came in and get pizza and he's moving to Seattle. And he goes, I'm leaving today. I just wanted to have one more pizza. And I'm like, what a compliment that is,
Yeah.
Or when somebody does, like when people come buy gift certificates to give as a gift, I think that is the greatest compliment. When they go, I just want to get a 20. What are you doing it for? Well, I'm just going to give it to one of my friends, whatever like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're using us to give as a gift to somebody else, I'm like, how cool is that? Those little things just make it for me.
I mean, not to say it melts your heart, but it does. I've got one family. They went on their first date in my restaurant. I don't know how many years ago, but they come back as a Valentine's Day. The first date, Valentine's Day, and they ended up getting married. They came back the next year, showing me that they were married on Valentine's Day. They came back and showed me that they were married. A year after that, they came back again. She was pregnant. A year after that, they came back again. She was pregnant again. They had one child, and she was pregnant again. They have 4 kids now. They come back every year on Valentine's Day. And this year, or maybe was it this year? I think it was this year. They couldn't make it on Valentine's Day because one of the kids got sick. And they have 4 kids now. So they came on another day. And I happened to be in there because I'm not in Adams that much anymore. My son runs it, and he does it, and still the same great food. And he's been doing that for 12 or 15 years now. But they every year have to get a picture with me. And this is the same, I mean, for like 14, 15 years, they've been coming in. And their kids are, one of the oldest one's a teenager now. And, and I get to watch these families, or because I'm right across from Willamette, I would get a lot of football players in and Willamette students. And I've got kids, they're grown adults now, 40 years old. And they'll call me in, or go online and order a barbecue sauce to have shipped back to wherever they're living now. There's one guy, he's developing the Truett property on Front Street. They're doing all that revamping of Front Street, going to put in condos and really cool stuff. He called me a couple of years ago. He goes, Mike, he said, I'm going to be in town. I want you to come to this meeting that we're having. It might have been when he wanted me to come to city council to talk for this thing. He said, I want you to put a restaurant in this complex. I want you to do something. So, we'll see what happens. But
That's a good compliment.
Yeah, we're hoping we can do something in that new developed area right on the river.
It is weird when you have like kids work for you.
Yeah.
And then you kind of bump into them. They're like, Mike. And I'm like, hey. You kind of recognize, but you kind of don't. And like, I just wanted to, say hi. I used to work, blah, blah, blah. And here's my 2 kids, and this is my wife and stuff. And it's just really weird that when you have that now, because
it is
for a while.
And that's why, that's probably it's the biggest, if not one of the biggest reasons that we're in this industry, is just the connections you make, the people you meet, the effect you can have on their future life.
Yeah.
I like that. I back years ago, I had a custom car accessory shop, and my target audience was 15 to 30-year-old males, lifting, lowering, customizing anything, any ride. And so I used to have all these teenage kids that would come in, the guys would come in, and they have a $500 car, and they want to spend $2,000 on wheels and put a $2,000 stereo in it.
I was one of those kids once.
And
I think I still am.
To this day, weekly, I get people that come into the shop, and what's real funny is I get 2 types. I get an adult man, an adult that, like, I don't recognize me, goes, yeah, I'm Dave. I used to have that little red Mazda pickup truck and you put lowering springs on it. I'm like, oh, cool. And he goes, I own my own business. I want to do some graphics with you. And those relationships I had back there. The other one I get is sometimes I get ladies in that will come in. Yeah, my boyfriend in high school used to come to your shop all the time. I know what the outside of your building looks like because he used to leave me sitting in there for hours in his car while he came in and talked to you. And I literally get that all the time.
That's hilarious.
But those relationships, and now some of those people don't realize connections and relationships unless they're really actively involved in it. So now I get business people that are decision makers in companies and stuff, and they get a hold of me. Hey, I remember you back when you used to have the custom car business. I remember you when you had your restaurant, and you were always great then. I would like to do business with you because you were so good at whatever you did back in the day. And I think that's really important for people in any business, is to always remember that customer service, that special touch. And if you always make that experience outstanding every time, you're going to have followers for whatever business you do.
Yeah, and you're building it. So that reminds me, I had the landscape company, and I sold that to another guy, and I kept in contact with some of those customers. And when it came time to open the first restaurant, I sent out it wasn't emails. It was 30 years ago. I still don't know how to do that stuff, but they sent letters or something. I can't remember, or maybe my wife emailed. Somebody did. They all came. Yeah, get the smoke going. And anyways, several of them came out. And I remember one, when I opened the second Adams Rib restaurant, I sent out, hey, we're opening another one. And this was Bruce Kerr. He was realtor, Kerr and Associates, Bruce and Marcia. And I had met them because I walked into their building one day looking for business. And, you hook up with realtors in the landscape business and you're going to get a lot of work. Yeah. And so I did all their rental houses. I did all their stuff. So when I sold the restaurant and they started coming into my restaurant, and then the second restaurant opened, Bruce came in and he looks at me, he goes, Mike, you were okay landscaper, but you found your calling. He said, this is your calling. And he's passed away now. But sorry. When my father passed away, he was like a surrogate father, and just a great guy. But he passed away, several years ago now, and I still stay in contact with his wife Marcia, and they were great people. But that was it was a wow, he's complimenting me, this guy, and I was, and that's just making those connections and staying, in that, or there was another one, I can't remember what I was going to say now, but there was another story, because I'm full of them. But, you're making these connections, lifelong connections, and like you said, in other businesses that you've had. It's me, it was lawn care and landscaping. And I still have contact with a lot of those customers from way back, A lot of them were older, they've passed on, and here's a funny one. Yesterday, I'm trying to put my tent together for this Harvest Fest, and I'm grabbing all the poles because I've got enough to build 100 foot of tent, and I only need 30 by 30. So I'm measuring out, okay, what size poles? Because I only do it a couple times a year. I pull this tent out. I'm going, okay, what are the poles? I grab my tape measure. And I'm like, I can't find my 20-foot tape measure. So I grab this 60 or whatever it is with the little crank. I look on the end, it says Cochelle on it. I'm like, Cochelle? How did I get Murney Cochelle's tape measure? He must have gave it to me when he moved to Idaho. Murney Cochelle was a retired train engineer, a short guy. He was probably 5'3", and stocky like us. And I would go to his house. I'd take care of his yard. I would go to his house once a week, and the first thing he would do is, Mike, come in here. And I'd come into his little converted garage that he kept at like 90 degrees. The guy was like 80 years old, and he would pray with me every week. And he'd have me come in, and we'd pray together. And just a wonderful man. And then I would, do his yard and whatever. And that yesterday when I grabbed that tape, it reminded me of, because it was his tape, clearly it had his name on it. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, what a wonderful, day.
Yeah.
To see that and have those memories.
Yeah.
And of a previous customer that was that close to me. Yeah. It's just how you treat people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't do anything, in my opinion, unusual. I'm just
doing what you do.
Just do what we do.
Well, that's when you really like what you do, and you're really passionate what you do, and you like to serve people, and you see the benefits from all of that. It's kind of weird how that's just full circles and stuff. We're talking about, I've had two really good compliments that stand out in my entire career and whatever. One was a lady that I went up as a delivery driver to her door, and she had counted out 100 pennies, like pennies. She goes, "Do you take change?" And I'm like, "Well, of course I take change." And she says, so she gives me the money for the pizza, and this is back when we did cash and everything else. So she gives me the cash for the pizza, and I'm like, okay. And then she hands me 100 pennies as a tip. And I thought, this lady counted out 100 pennies just to give me a tip. And I thought that was like one of the greatest compliments ever. It's weird. I mean, it's nothing, but it's that point, And the second one was I had a gentleman here that in town who's a realtor now, but he worked for me way back in the day in the 2000 and in 2001, something like right around there. And he had made a post about, my favorite this, my favorite that, and I was his favorite boss, right? And so I was like, "Oh, thank you very much." He goes, "Dude, you are the only person that could turn a disciplinary action into a pep talk," And it's like, I just want you to be successful. I want you to understand, what it's going to take to do that. And I find that when you have kids and stuff that work, even like at 14 now, it's nice that we're able to get them back in there early, is to start teaching them the levels of how to be successful and how to focus and look at things and how to do those. I think it's super important. And it's not just trying to squeeze the life out of them to get what you can. It's just mostly getting them to understand work ethic. And now I think it's more important than ever to find kids you can show them that framework, and to be able to be, to see that. Because, I mean, this industry, it touches you in so many different ways in, how to be successful in life. It's kind of weird how you really kind of combine a lot of different elements to do that. And so it's kind of a fun industry to be in for that thing, because you kind of the turning stone for a lot of kids, that corner that they got to make from being kids to adults. And some of the seeds that we get to plant in that are
well, and on that note, sometimes you have to fire people. I've only fired a handful of, I could say probably 10 in my, entire adult life of having employees. And you'll sit down with them, and, sometimes they're just angry, and they'll walk out angry. But I've usually will sit down with them, I'll tell them, "Hey, here's why I'm having to let you go. Please don't take this the wrong way, but in the future, in another job, work on this area so that you can be successful." And they'll, usually be pretty upset when they leave, but 9 times out of 10, a couple years later, I'll run into them, or they'll come back in the restaurant and they'll say, "Thank you. Thank you for firing me, because I wasn't very good. Now I'm the manager on this construction job." I can't tell you how many people have come back, whether they're, a manager on a construction job, or they're an accountant somewhere now, or...
they got like a real job.
Exactly.
A real job, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for teaching me the
and
right way.
It's like, that's nice. I think I've only had 1 or 2 people that never talk to me again, kind of thing. Yeah. But most of the time they come back and they thank me for letting them go, and they understood, you had to do what you had to do. I was not doing the job, or I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, but
Yep, I've had a few of those.
They used to always say that I don't fire people, people fire themselves.
Yeah.
Is the way I've always looked at how you do that. But man, that is the roughest thing to do, is to sit down and have that conversation.
Yeah.
But you're hoping that even in those moments, you've got hope and everything else, and say, hey, listen, you'll get it figured out, but now's not the time. And, and somebody told me a kind of a neat thing of like, that you're like a bus driver and people get on and off your bus in business. Some people stay longer than others, but you're really just a bus driver. I thought that's kind of a neat way to look at it,
Yeah.
And
I think the only thing that makes it easy for me, because I'm very, stealing is a really big one for me. And I've had it happen when I was in the restaurant business. I had a couple instances there and that were major. And then in my side business, I've had that happen. And I just I just can't tolerate that part of it. And so that makes it even harder to keep my emotion in check when I have to have that talk.
Yeah.
But and it's really funny. Most people, when I do let them go, I always follow up with them to see how they're doing, in a period of time, because it is an emotional to me, because I know, especially an adult, a little different when it's a single person, but when you have somebody that's older
got a family,
and they got a family and they rely on it and all that kind of stuff, that really plays into it.
Yeah.
And I'm an emotional guy, and I really, and for me, like I'm really excited because I got to tell you this. I have two of my employees buying a house. They got together, and and it was my coaching that I did about a year ago. I started helping them. I brought a mortgage person in, a financial person in, and I had these meetings with my staff and bought lunch. And because that was one of the things I found out, is a lot of people that work for me that don't already have a house, they want to buy a house and want to be homeowners. A year later, two people that that are single, they're not together, two ladies, and they one's younger, one's older, and they just figured out that they're going to buy a house together, they're going to invest, and they're going to have a house, and they're hopefully going to close on it here soon. And I think that's great.
That is.
So that type of stuff I live for,
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah, those are the victories.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Well, goodness, we can keep you here for 3 hours. You said that already.
I know.
So, but
I do have a couple quick questions for you.
Yeah. Are they quick?
Yes.
You're asking me.
Brisket, pulled pork. Which is your favorite?
They're two totally different, profiles. Pork, it just depends on what flavor you like. I mean, I'm a beef guy.
Yeah. Which one would you prefer? If you had the two sitting there, what are you going for?
I'd probably go for the brisket.
Okay. Perfect.
Just it's got a stronger flavor.
What's your favorite dish at Adams?
Favorite at Adams?
Isn't that weird when they say that? It's your name?
So
what's your favorite place at dinner?
I grew up on tri-tip. When I was 11, we moved to Santa Maria, California, and that's where tri-tip originated. And I like to say I brought tri-tip to Oregon because 42 years ago you couldn't get tri-tip here, and I started asking the butchers for tri-tip, and that's kind of where I got my start here in Salem. And now everybody does it, but they don't do it right. So a tri-tip meal or tri-tip sandwich would be my favorite.
What about at Bow and Vine?
I like just a classic burger. I mean, there's a lot of good burgers at Bow and Vine, but I like just a classic cheeseburger or the Willamette burger, which has got a little, what is that, balsamic in it, and it's really good.
Just for a note, I love all the different sauces you can get.
The sauce tender.
I love that.
Yeah.
So at the deli, what's your go-to at the deli?
Well, if I'm really hungry, I'll get a meatball sandwich because we make our meatballs from scratch. We make our sauce from scratch. We call it gravy, classic Italian gravy, and the best. And I like everybody else's meatballs in town. There's a lot of good scratch-made meatballs because the two biggest Italian restaurants in town are both friends of mine. So I have to say that. And I battle on whose is better, but mine is the best. and a lot of times,
that's
the
like
guys
what do you
do
say?
it.
Like so do you like the McLaren better, or do you like? I mean,
right?
They're all amazing.
How do you make that? Everybody's got their different profile. But if I'm real hungry, it'll be a meatball sub or sandwich, meatball wedge. We don't call it a sub; we call it a wedge. and there's a story behind that. But if I'm not as hungry, I'll just do an Italian turkey sandwich or something like that, just with, But
That
we've
was
got
the one that was highlighted
amazing.
in that video. Was the Italian turkey sub.
Yeah, they're all we use the highest quality meats. Again, it's cost, and we're probably the cheapest sandwich shop. You got all your Jersey Mikes and your Firehouse subs and your Subways, and we're still on par.
We
or
always say it
cheaper.
different. I see Mappa Perfys and
Yeah.
Pomino's Dietza. I don't really say their name, but that's how I do it. So it's like,
Yeah. It's like, and I've tried them all. It's like they're not bad, but they're not Cozzie's. And that's why I bought it.
It's awesome. I really appreciate that you took the time out to come talk with us. Tell us a little bit of your story. I mean, we could probably sit here for hours and not even touch part of anywhere near this.
Well, I could go in. Yeah, I have that, I guess, ability. You put a microphone in front of me. It's like when I go on the radio talking or something. It's like
we have a lot of experiences, and that you can share with people. And I think that some of the things that you've gone through and you've done, if that can just help somebody out there and really tell your story. I really
that's
like it.
That's what we're here for. We're if we can help the next generation to move forward in a better way, then we've done our job.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think if you teach them successful framework, like you've done it in different ways.
Yeah.
Arthur's done it in very many different ways. I've done it in different ways. If you can just get them to understand that you just got to go after it, and then you just got to be smart about it. I think it's amazing. And so, your story when you talk about all the different things you do, it's just, hey, learn the successful framework. Talk to old guys.
Talk to old guys. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
well, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
That's my pleasure.
I've been looking forward to meeting you. So
Yeah, me too.